Welcome to Subscription Prescription, the podcast where you get the information you need to scale your subscription program.
One of the hardest things to manage in subscriptions is consumption. Basically, how much somebody orders and how much they use of your product. If you're selling coffee, supplements, something that people take at different cadences, it can be really, really hard. And this is one of the number one contributors to churn because people either end up with too much product or not enough product. And when they don't have enough, they go and find it on Amazon or at a local store. I'd like to introduce you to a new solution in the subscription game that is fixing all of that called Bottomless. Bottomless is a software and scale that people use at home to be able to manage how much they're using of something. Bottomless scale will sit on your counter. You can put the coffee bag on it, and that scale will track how much is left in the bag and trigger a reorder when things are getting low. The system is fully automated, and the best part is that you can run it in tandem with your subscription app or use it all alone as its own subscription experience. If you have a problem with consumers not knowing how much to use, having too much product, or having to reorder too many times, I highly suggest you look at Bottomless and find out more about how they're transforming the subscription experience. Hello and welcome to another dose of Subscription Prescription. I'm your host, Matt Holman. This is the podcast where we try to help you understand everything related to e-commerce subscriptions. I'm really excited to be joined today by Kelley Thornton, the founder and CEO of Tiege Hanley, a men's skincare brand. We're going to be talking a lot about his journey, about product development, about what it takes to build a brand like this and to really make waves in something that's established as skincare, but maybe not quite as established for men. Kelley, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Matt. Let's do this, man. Everything subscription. Let's get into it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for those of you that are listening at home and not watching, I want to point out that both Kelley and I are bald. So if we make any bald jokes, you will know that what we're talking about. I always like to mention like Dollar Shave Club and stuff when I'm talking subscription programs, Kelley. But I'm excited for this because part of this is going to be a little bit of product personal discovery. Because from what I've seen of your journey around Tiege Hanley is you saw walking in the skincare aisle, all these other products and the thought of like men don't really know skincare. When I read that resonated deeply with me because I feel overwhelmed in a skincare aisle. I only use a lotion now that a dermatologist recommends. That's everything else feels like I'm not sure it works or whatever. So can you unpack for us a little bit more about like what prompted like the founding of Tiege Hanley? Like where did that come from?
Well, so I have one son, but us dudes, we don't get much skincare education. I mean, as a young guy, right. As an adolescent going in, like the first thing that we get that's even closely related is the concept of shaving your face. And this is how it went down for me. You know, my father gave me a razor. Actually, my mother did. I went upstairs, shaved it, did a horrible job. There was no instruction. Then she told me to go back up. And then I got some instruction, from her, from my father at the time. And, that was like my total skincare education like that one time. I had many more opportunities to learn how to tie a tie growing up as a youth wearing a tie to school than I did taking care of my face. And I just saw like a tremendous opportunity and interest in skincare globally. And I was just thinking like us American men, we're like Neanderthals. Like we don't know shit about taking care of ourselves. And I was interested in like I was like, well, why are these women doing this and guys aren't? Like what's holding us back from trying to look amazing? So, it was I saw a great opportunity, and then I saw a need in the market for us to step in and think about this in a way, make it dude friendly and talk about this to guys about taking care of their skin. That's loosely how the thing started.
What was your guys' like initial go-to-market strategy? I mean, I know like the typical play in e-commerce is all paid ads and stuff, but it seems like you guys have maybe done a little bit of a different route than that, or like how have you guys have grown from concept to some of where you are today?
It was actually a disaster. We started off by launching Tiege V1 in actually 2015, and it was a side project to the agency that I had. So I called, I was working on, so my background is really out of like the shopper marketing world. So like, and just simply put, how do people shop at retail, and how do you connect with them along this path to purchase, this retail path to purchase? And then layering in over top of that, like how do you understand how consumers behave in different channels, retail channels? So,
Right.
and truthfully, it's very analogous to digital channels, like there's a lot of like strategically, it's a lot of similarities. But I was working on that, and I'm like, we got to get skincare online. I wrote an executive summary of a men's skincare business and gave it to one of my college roommates who I hadn't worked with in the professional world, but he was coming off of a long-term gig in technology, and the company he worked for was acquired, was single founder, started a software company. He worked for it for 20 some years. And he was just like, screwing off at home. And I'm like, Rob, why don't you look into this executive summary that I wrote about the skincare category? He didn't know anything about it. We launched it in 16. We launched it in 15. It was a disaster. And I actually, after I gave him the executive summary, I kind of like fleshed out the business. He's like, this is a good idea. I said, all right, let me flesh out this business plan a bit. I fleshed out the business plan, and we presented it to an advisory, a team of dudes, some that knew about digital marketing, some that knew about skincare. And most of them were like, yeah, this is kind of a sucky idea. And we went to market, and within 60 days, it was done. It was a dead duck. We were selling skincare routines. We were selling them on the internet. We were using full size, so like a 90-day, 100-day supply of something. And we were selling other people's brands in a routine. So there's like, other companies' face wash, other companies' moisturizer. So it's kind of like this Birchbox kind of idea. And I think that didn't work for us. And we were able to search for people that could help us talk about this concept. And we ran into a guy named Marino, who's a YouTube guy. And he had a at the time, he had a very large, like 650,000 follower YouTube channel. And we're like, we got to get that guy to talk about, this concept of educating a dude on skincare. And that led to the relaunch of Tiege Hanley in 2016. And Aaron was, in essence, became our spokesperson. He became the voice of Tiege Hanley and why it's important for a guy to take care of himself.
Do you think that, so with the failure, was it because it were different products? Was it because of the expense of acquiring people through digital marketing? Like, was it a number of factors? What was the reason you call it a failure and needing to be relaunched?
Yeah, I there was like Matt. There was like three main elements of the failure. First, that we were selling other people's products in a box, so they weren't Tiege Hanley branded product. So from that perspective, we didn't have a brand. Number two, we had zero voice in the market. Like we had no voice. I mean, when you have no voice in the market and you're going from zero to hero, I mean, it's impossible to you can't buy your way into.
Is that because you guys were like trying to you weren't just trying to market a product, but you were trying to like market the product for people that like routines? Guys might not even be doing a routine. Is it like you're trying to also get them to? Yeah, it was like a multifaceted problem. Like you can't just. It's not like a bunch of guys are searching for skincare routines and you're serving up the option for them. You're trying to demonstrate the importance of skincare, and then also, by the way, you can buy that from us. Like. Right.
I mean, that is exactly it. So, so the third answer was, we didn't have a brand. We're selling other people's product. We didn't have a voice in the market. So we had no way to communicate this important part as you just described better than I did, of why it's important to have a skincare routine and how do you go about it. And then lastly, we weren't a subscription company. And I know the podcast that I'm on, and we are all about subscription here at Tiege Hanley. Aaron, when we recruited Aaron to help us have a voice, Aaron said, I really want to be a partner in the business. And then Aaron's like, we really need to make this like a 30-day routine, a subscription. So those were fundamentally 3 huge changes. And that's how we really got our voice. That's how we started developing the Tiege Hanley brand. And that's how we became a subscription focused company.
Right. I love that. So is that like still the main focus or use case is like trying to develop a skincare routine for men and enable them with the different products that they could use for that?
That's what it's all about every day. I mean, we believe in the concept of healthy habits, right?
Right.
And we think we know why that's really important for men. Like getting up and, working out on a consistent schedule and getting to bed at a consistent time, eating right. These are all very healthy habits that are critical for dudes. So we're just, we're really talking about right after oral hygiene, when you're in your bathroom, either in the morning when you get up or before you go to bed, you should be thinking about, your skincare routine, using a very high quality face wash, washing your face, and using, a moisturizer either in the morning, and a daytime moisturizer that has an SPF, or, a nighttime moisturizer when your cells are rejuvenating, giving your skin a chance to refresh itself. This is what we're talking about. It's core of our business.
Right. Well, and as a guy, like it's just so funny. Like I don't always get to interview somebody where I'm your target market, right? Where I actually last fall had to get a skincare treatment. My wife had been concerned about some weird cell growth, precancerous stuff. Go see a dermatologist. They're like, yeah, we need to cook that off. And they gave me some lotion, but I've thought about that a while, and I've tried a few different products, but it is always a little overwhelming because I'm like, does this even work? Like, is this doing anything? Like, am I just putting crap on my face that makes me more itchy? Like, there's like all these different like reasons for that, but yet what happens is life goes by.
Right.
Another 10 years is going to go by. If I don't do anything, I'm probably going to need to get that skincare treatment again in not too distant future. My wife is going to be always giving me this little side eye, like, are you going to die from cancer because you don't take care of yourself?
Right.
Like what's
right.
And yet we're so easy to like just not worry about it. Like if you kick the can down the road, you're not like, I don't need to worry about this problem today.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, the male psychology on this. I mean, I don't know what it is, but women like kind of, they just get this earlier on. Like if you, I think they're, they have, most of them are much more educated on this. Like you start taking care of your skin early on, they understand that down the road in the future, it will pay dividends. It was interesting. I was coming back from Atlanta, visiting Aaron, who I was talking about earlier, my business partner, who's the influencer. His channel's Alpha M on YouTube. And this guy came on the plane and he sat down next to me, and he had a hat on, a baseball cap. And I'd recognize the baseball cap and I wanted to get one, but they're very expensive baseball caps. They're like, the Rolls Royce of baseball caps. And so I've never parted with, the cost of one of these baseball caps. They're like $100 or $80 for a baseball hat or something like this. So I said to him, I'm like, hey, that's a really nice hat. Like, what do you think? And he's like, yeah, this is just like the greatest. I've got it in blue and black or whatever. And he took off the hat. He sat down, he took off the hat, and he had no hair like you and I. And I said, well, what are you putting on that dome of yours? And it was hot that day. And he said, I gotta really, I've got the skincare routine. I'm starting to put like an SPF on during the day because I'm really worried about melanoma. I'm worried about skin damage on my skin. He's like, he was probably 40. I'm in my 50s, and he's like, I wish I had started this 10 years ago. Like I didn't realize the importance, because it's hard to see around that corner at that point in your life that down the road it really matters. So he was complaining. I'm not saying you were complaining, but he was complaining that he had wished he'd started earlier.
No, I totally agree with that, and I think that and the reason I ask this and unpack this for anyone who's listening at home is, I think it's really, really critical to like try to get into the mind and the methodology, like the use cases behind why people would want to buy something, right? And so we've just outlined two very different users. Women's skincare. Women are educated on the importance of skincare early on. You don't need to argue or convince a woman why she should be doing skincare. You have to find a different way to stand out or get more specific. With a guy, you often have to convince him of the importance of the skincare, or maybe if he's done it before, why yours is more important. So Kelley, I'm curious, what are some of the ways that you guys tried to either introduce people to Tiege Hanley initially, or is it like a form of content? Like, how are you guys trying to speak to educate men in general or get them to try your product in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, we found Matt, that men actually prefer to hear from other men why it's important to engage in the category. So we use a lot of content, male-driven content, for a target audience that we think would be interested in learning about skincare. And most of the target audience is related to things that guys are trying to do in their lives to live better lives. So it could be working out, or could be getting, trying to find a spouse or significant other. So we're engaged in having conversations and creating content and longer form content in areas where we know guys are interested in, and we know that it's part of a gateway to creating a healthy skincare habit. So that's, and a lot of it is long form video content that we're creating that's talking about this subject.
Have you guys noticed a difference between like single guys that are out there in the dating pool versus married men that have a wife nagging them? Like, are there different, like, are you speak strongly to both, or is there one audience that's doing better than others?
Yeah, actually, I think that's a little bit of a challenge, because we have guys that are at different points, different ages at different points in their lives that are, they may have been, become engaged in the category through different reasons at different points in their lives. Mm-hmm. So the answer to your question is yes, we're having different conversations with guys at different points in their lives, depending on what it is that's happening to them at that point, right? And it could be like an older dude that just had his first child or second child, and who's it could be that guy that's having a little bit of a midlife crisis, or it could be a guy that had a divorce, and is like rethinking about kickstarting his relationship.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And it always makes me think too, like there's so many different content approaches and content plays. You have to make choices sometimes about what you're going to make or not. But it sounds like you guys have found that it's a pretty common problem across a lot of different use cases for men, where they're interested in taking better care of their skin. I'm curious for Kelley, with what you've seen in growing a company for going on like 8-9 years now, what is like the number one key for you guys to be successful on the retention side of things, or any number of things, if it's not just one?
Yeah, well, the number one key to success is being really good at hiring the right people.
Okay.
And, that's really, really super duper hard. Right. So, and it takes, again, a lot of failure. So you have to hire people that end up not being the right people for your business, identifying that they weren't the right people,
and why,
understanding and learning why they weren't the right people, regrettably having to fire those people, and then hopefully hiring the right people with the right skills to continue leading the business. So that's that's the biggest one. On the subscription side, it's really identifying reasons why people don't want to aren't successful with your subscription. So identifying those reasons why people aren't successful, and then creating strategies that you believe lead to successful relationships, successful subscription relationships, and working on those hypotheses to try to have successful relationships. And then, just like on the growth side, testing those hypotheses, and then putting things into place that does lead to success, and then going down to the next level, peeling back the onion to the next level, and understanding the second breakage point and the third breakage point and the fourth breakage point.
Right.
And then addressing those things. And then with each change that you're making in each test and each hypothesis, pressure checking the overarching system to see whether or not synergistically these things that you're doing are making yielding the results that you're looking for.
Do you guys have a lot of cross-pollination between your retention teams and your growth teams? Like, are you guys, is the retention team telling, hey, we're seeing this perform better, or we're seeing this as a problem, so we should be fixing this? Because I mean, you guys have a quiz, you guys have a sample pack offer. It's stuff that I love seeing in subscriptions, trying to help people figure that out. So I'm just curious how much of your growth strategy has been influenced by finding what's working or what's not working on the retention side.
Yeah, it's a really good question, Matt. I like it. Actually, relates to what I was saying earlier about failure and people. We actually had I had success marketing and growth marketing as two completely separate entities within the organization.
Mm-hmm.
I had it that way for years, and I couldn't get the level of collaboration nearly as tight as it needed to be. So I mean, at first they were together, and then for years I had them separate. And last almost 4 years, I've had them back together. There's a hugely synergistic relationship between success marketing and growth marketing.
Right.
So you and your audience probably have thought about this, but you, just as you want to, on the growth side, just as what you want to understand, the metrics associated with acquiring somebody in a certain channel and contribution margin associated with all that. You want to understand the same thing on your success channel. And we get really, really, really in the weeds with it. I don't know how interested you are about that, but we get really in the weeds.
I live in the weeds. So
yeah. Okay. So we get really in the weeds with it. And then we're communicating on a daily basis with the growth side of our business, what's happening on the success side of the business and the contribution impact, and how to get more people like the ones that are able to be successful with us. So
I love that.
Yeah. What we're doing is we're actually measuring. So we look at what's called an FTM, a future 12-month earning. We don't look, I mean, the concept of LTV is like a backward looking thing. So we're looking at a future 12 months. And then we're predicting by channel, by creative, what the future 12-month, which is how well our success marketing is doing,
mm-hmm.
future 12-month earning of a customer, and then daily by cohort, by channel, applying machine learning to what we think that customer is going to be worth over time.
Right.
And then every day looking 30 days back, and looking at cohorts, 60 days, 90 days, back to understand our assumptions about the value of those customers and figuring out our payback period over a period of time, and we've got it nailed to like plus or minus 2 to 3%.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So, and it's getting better every day, the more data that we have in there. So we basically can predict the future 12-month earnings of a cohort that we receive today based on all our models and based on channel and cost and a whole bunch of different factors. Then we're spending against that FTM.
Hey, yeah, and then you're able to track, like, from a sensitivity standpoint, like how accurate you've been or not, which allows you to like further improve the model and the prediction. Like, I gotta say, like, for most brands that I talk to are not at that level. Like, I just trying to get somebody to pay attention to contribution. Like, everybody understands contribution margin and LTV, I believe, in general, but like trying to make the right decision based off of, like, I think with subscriptions, most brands are at the stage where the opportunity is understanding who within those cohorts have a better contribution margin than others and trying to pursue more customers like that. You guys sounds like you're more forward thinking about that, understanding how people are coming in, what the value of that customer is going to be over the next 12 months based off of like what you've done in the past in your machine learning. So that's pretty cool.
Just think about this, right? I mean, yeah, I'm sure you have. I'm sure you've thought about it a lot. But if you can understand, the future value of a customer in a subscription model based on a number of factors, then you can actually adjust your marketing mix on the growth side just based on what you think your predictive model looks like in any given day on your daily spend, your daily growth. So if we get a lot of guys in cohorts and a lot of guys in a cohort and daily cohort that look really, really good, we'll be willing to spend more money, on getting in some customers that we know may not look as good because we're already really looking good for the day, and vice versa. We may want to low spend if our marketing mix looks like we're bringing in more customers that is going to drive our FTM down and increase our payback period for those customers.
Absolutely. And I'd say for anybody like sitting at home listening to this and feeling like that might be like, years away or from like very incredibly sophisticated, I want to point out a couple things. Like, one, Kelley's pointing out, like, on his business, if you look at his website, he's got free shipping when you spend $20 or more. So I'm making the assumption, Kelley, that you guys have that on there based off of all of your learnings and understanding of like that is the threshold. And there's certain people that opt in for that. There's a lot of different offers you have that influences like how people get. So they're able to make those type like better business decisions. If you're not there yet, like, you still want to just try to understand what is making people tick and trying to find some ways to segment users to understand what types of things they're buying or where you're getting them. Understanding is an affiliate more profitable than a Facebook ad, right? Like, understanding, like, if you're selling on Amazon or in retail, like understanding your contributions, margins, all those, so you can make the right decisions. And then you can continue to start building out models and looking more forward looking, like what Kelley's talking about.
Yeah, that's excellent, Matt. Yeah. And
go ahead.
That's excellent. Look, it's a process, right? So you just need to get started on it. It takes a long time but you just need to get started. Anybody that's listening to this, just get started. It's easy to get started. You can just get started by talking to your customers about why they would leave and at what point do they leave. Just talk to your customers and then create some hypothesis around that. Look at the data to see whether or not your hypothesis is, vaguely close, and then start making some decisions around how you prevent that. And then just start there.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, definitely. Anyone listening, like, think of it like the hypothesis approach, I think, is the right way. you have an idea. So many times we see people you make assumptions in your business about why somebody's buying, why somebody's leaving, but you have to test that to try to validate that or disprove that, because I've seen some wacky stuff go the opposite direction, because you go to try to prove it and you end up, you're totally wrong, but it was a good wrong. Like you find out more things. Like, you mentioned at the top of the show about how you guys first rolled out like these really large stuff, but I'm, looking at the size of your products now, they're a lot smaller, which I'm assuming like fits in more with being able to how it sits on your counter, how like daily consumption, reordering, like you're keeping probably like higher, stronger touch points with people. But, you don't necessarily just roll out based on what somebody else is doing for your business, like what your product is going to look like or its size.
Yeah,
you have to get feedback on that.
I would strongly caution people not to necessarily look at their competitors and try to copy them, because you just don't. It's very, very hard to understand the strategy, reason why companies are doing things. And, you might want to assume that they're doing things incorrectly. So following them may just lead you down an incorrect path.
Right. Yeah, I'm really curious because you guys are in Recharge, and obviously Recharge has been touted pretty heavily, and I think rightfully so. Like so this is the year of the routine, right? Trying to get people to adopt products as part of their daily routine. Are there anything you guys are doing from product inserts or cards or emails, text, anything related to like trying to help increase adoption of a product of Tiege Hanley products?
We've been working on that for years, right? So every success concept is about how do we build healthy routines. So there's many, many, many different tactics that we use, but the long and short of it is that we want to help a guy figure out what's the best routine for him. So we want to really shepherd a journey that our consumer is taking and help him figure out how to be successful at his routine, and to the extent that we can, to help him get good at it and customize his routine that makes sense for him.
No, I like that, because again, I'm just thinking myself, like, I work out in the morning. I usually don't have a ton of time between gym and getting ready for work.
Yep.
But I have a lot of time in the evenings for routine, like generally. But I also shave in the morning and stuff too. So I'm excited. I'm not just saying this, but I'm going to take your quiz when we're done. And I've been thinking about trying to get back into some product, just because, like I said, I'm a little bit nervous about.
Surprised we didn't send you product. We send everybody product. I'll make sure to get some to you.
I'm excited to check it out, because again, I think it's definitely a space. When you talk about guys that don't care too much about their own skincare routine, like that's me in a nutshell. Like I didn't wear sunscreen in my 20s because I didn't think it mattered, and then you get sunburned one too many times and realize this is stupid. The same thing with like trying to take better care of yourself. And now that I'm married, I have another person and people that care about my long-term health and stuff. Kelley, I'm wondering if there's anything else from like a business development standpoint. We have a wide variety of listeners. We have people that are just getting off the ground to multi-million-dollar subscription businesses. Kind of like it's a fairly diverse audience. So I'm just curious if there's anything, because you've run several successful businesses to this point. I know you mentioned your purchase point business, like understanding like retail, like anything from a general business advice that you get asked, questions you get asked regularly from other e-commerce founders, or anything you want to share with the audience.
I think, right, it is a very, very, if we're talking about founders, it's a very tough and kind of lonely place for people that are running businesses. It's not easy. There's a lot of, the highs are really high and the lows are really low.
Right.
And, us founders, we just need to, stay in the game to live another day and remain positive. Things are tough right now across the board for businesses. Things are really difficult. Just looking at, we're sitting here, I don't know when this is going to be published, but we're sitting here in the end of May, and I'm just looking at Fed data, for consumer prices index and inflation and, and consumer sentiment. And it's still, on a macro sense, it's very ugly out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, we just, as business owners, we need to be smart. And now's the time to be pulling back financially, like being as conservative as you possibly can, not spending any money on things that are, not going to definitely move the needle. And, and just hang in there, because might be a little sunny out that we're getting into the summer, but it is gloomy from a business standpoint. So hang in there.
Stay the course. I mean, you've been running your business long enough. You've seen a lot of highs and lows. Yeah. I think that's one of the things too. I think most people, we don't give ourselves enough credit for anybody who's been doing their business for a year. Kelley's been doing this for a while. They've gone through a lot of learnings and things like that. And I would add with that financial, pulling back thing, is this is now the time to really, if you do have time or resources, to spend time trying to figure out what makes you stick more in your customer's wallet.
If you're early on, I'm glad you said that, Matt, because I forget what it's like in year 1 to 3. But if you're early on and you're kind of which we all are struggling, don't be too overreactive. Don't be too reactive to things. You should be sticking with what it is that you intended the business to be. Don't be trying to do too many crazy things right now and hitting home runs. And we need to scrap this plan and go to this plan. That is the wrong thing to be doing right now if you're in your early days with what's going on with the economy. Now's the time to be doubling down only on things that have worked for you over the last year and doing nothing new. You really need to be super focused right now.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. Well, Kelley, thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, for anybody who's interested, you can check out tiege.com, tiege.com. Connect with Kelley's best place, LinkedIn or Twitter.
Yeah, LinkedIn, please. If you have any questions at all, just hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm really glad to answer any questions or help out in any way I possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everybody I've met from Kelley's team so far has been really, really cool. In fact, your team's the ones that made this introduction happen. So I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your knowledge and your experience with everybody listening here. And I hope everybody listening takes away something really important. Like you said, stay the course, double down on what you know that works, come up with hypotheses to test some of your ideas or your assumptions, but ultimately try to figure out a problem that's plaguing your customers and see if you can solve it for them, which it sounds like you guys are doing really well. So, and again, I'm excited to find out if it works for me too. So thanks again, Kelley, and stay tuned everybody for next week's dose of subscription prescription.
That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe so that you can get notified when new episodes come out each week on Tuesdays.